Temperatures are starting to drop here in New York. Tonight it's going to be 20 degrees. It's going to be the coldest night of the season so far. So I have to make a couple of adjustments to my collection to keep everything thriving. We deal with a lot of things growing indoors: radiators, dry conditions, bone dry conditions. My humidity can get down to like 15%. So today's video is going to be some tips on keeping everything thriving indoors. Before jumping right in, if you guys are interested in the membership, the details are down below. There's 2 levels. Both have access to Discord where you can ask me questions, and one has access to care sheets. And this month's care guide is winter care. So if you guys are into that, details are down below. And if you want a free care guide on how to grow cattleyas, that is also down below, so you can check it out. So let's get into it. So light is going to start being reduced in the winter. And if you live further away from the equator, you're going to be affected by that more. I'm talking to my growers up in Finland, Norway. You're going to have significantly less light. And in those cases, I recommend supplementing with a grow light. Here in New York, I think we get like 8 hours of sun a day. It's not ideal, but I don't think you have to supplement with grow lights, but it can be helpful to give a little bit more if you need it. If you have a south or west facing window that's filtered, generally you're going to be okay. You don't have to overthink it. But if you are in a place that's only getting 5 or 6 hours of sun per day, further up or further down, then you're going to have to supplement with some grow lights. Every window is kind of different, and sometimes you'll get even brighter light in the winter because sometimes there'll be like a tree that's in front of that window, and if the tree sheds its leaves, you're going to get more light than before. So something that can harm orchids in the winter is temperature fluctuations that are too abrupt. So you want to keep them, you don't want the leaves to be on the window because that's going to give cold damage. So you want to make sure that there's no drafts. You want to insulate your windows if they're leaky. And just watch that this time of year. You want to make sure your orchids get a slight temperature drop at night. That stands all the time in general. You want the temperature drop to be at least 10 degrees between day and night. I get that naturally with my grow lights, but they're probably still going to get that from the window, and that's actually beneficial for your Phalaenopsis orchids. They tend to spike this time of year. I have a lot of my phals that are starting to spike, so I look forward to that. That's kind of the bright spot of winter. A lot of the Phalaenopsis, especially the standard ones, the big ones, they start spiking. So I see all of those through January and March, through January and February, which is really nice. You want to make sure you keep the temperatures of your orchids at least like 60, 65 degrees. If you could keep them stable during the day, amazing. The biggest issue, as I said, is a sharp temperature increase or drop. So you want to watch any radiators. You want to watch any jets of air hitting anything. If you have your orchids above like a radiator or an HVAC, what I recommend is if you can lift them up so they're not in the direct stream of air, that would be ideal. You could even get like plywood or something covering the jet stream of air and lifting it slightly ajar, maybe with like a book or something that kind of like lifts it up. That way the air can go into the room and not straight up to your orchids. That would be best because the radiators can cause damage, especially if it's too hot or if it makes the temperatures fluctuate a lot. It will impact your blooms. It could lead to bud blasts as well. You don't want the temperatures to go below 60 degrees generally for most orchids. Some of them, of course, tolerate cooler temperatures, but you want to keep things as stable as possible during the day. And of course, at night, as the sun goes down, as your lights turn off, that's going to be natural, and that's okay. Just don't get below 60 degrees. If you have grow lights, what I like to do is I reduce my grow lights so that this way it mimics how they grow in the wild near the equator. So in the summer, I have them on for 14 hours a day. In the spring and fall, 13 hours. And in the winter, 12 hours a day. And that's how I handle my grow lights. So I'm going to reduce them 1 hour, and this helps a lot of species. Some of them are triggered with their blooms on the different lighting that they get. So it's not for the entire collection. It's just for some species I have. So I like to make that tweak in the winter. Humidity is going to be low. I'm talking like if I touch my rug, I'm going to get shocked and I'm going to see a spark. Right now it's 25%, so it's pretty low right now. I don't have the humidifier out yet, but I will. The most important thing with humidity is to make sure that you're watering your orchids properly. And in some cases, you might have to water more. Counterintuitive, I know, but if you have something near a radiator, it's going to dry out faster. Of course, you're not going to have it on the radiator, but sometimes the dry air will cause some pots to dry out faster. You want to make sure you're watering and rewatering again when your pots dry. For your cattleyas and dendrobiums, and then for your phals and oncidiums and those types, you want to water them as they approach dryness. So some of them will dry out faster and some of them will dry out slower. So you have to play it by ear. So some of them, if your temperatures are going to be cooler indoors, which is the case for a lot of people too, it will cause some of the pots to dry slower. So you're going to have two scenarios. One where the radiators are going like crazy and it's warm indoors and it's very dry. And the other scenario is your house or your apartment is going to be a lot cooler than it is in the summer. In that case, you want to make sure you're not overwatering. So I've seen both scenarios depending on where I put my orchids. If I have some orchids growing in my living room near a steam pipe. They're not getting direct heat, but they're close by. I find that those dry out faster than the ones in here. And of course, the bigger the pot, the longer it takes to dry. The smaller the pot, the more often you have to water. So that stays. I think it's good. It's a good time to mist your collection. It's also, if you don't have to use a humidifier, as I mentioned, it's more about hydration. You can mist, but be careful if you have cooler indoor temperatures. Don't mist at night when the lights are off, when the sun is down. That can lead to fungal infections on your orchids. So just do it early on in the day and when you still have some light. You don't want to overwater, as I mentioned, but you do want to reduce your fertilizer. So I like quarter strength weekly. And what I do this time of year, sometimes I just water without fertilizer every other. And then your orchids in dormancy, those don't get watered at all. And you can check out my video here for orchids, for how to treat orchids that go through dormancy. You can repot only if you have new roots and new growths. It doesn't matter if it's winter. If they're growing, you can repot through the year, but it's not ideal if your temperatures are lower indoors. So if you can keep them warm, it's fine to repot. If your conditions indoors are going to be much cooler and you're dealing with like warm or hot growers like dendrobiums, I would wait till the spring. But you don't have to shy away if you have new growths. If you don't have new growths, I wouldn't touch them until the spring. Just leave it. I say just do it on an as-need basis. Like if something's growing out of the pot, you can get it done. But if it doesn't need it, if your temperatures are still are cooler indoors, it's like a mixed bag. Like some places are high heat, some places are gonna stay a little bit cooler. So it really depends. But I would only repot if you have new roots, new growths. Otherwise, I would just wait till the spring. And I just repotted a ton, so I don't want to see a repot in quite a while, but there's a few things I still got to get done at some point. I hope this was helpful. Let me know what your temperatures are like where you live. I know a lot of folks in the mountain areas are already getting 0 degrees. And those of you in South Florida, you guys have had pretty decent temperatures. So it's always interesting to see where everyone's at. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye everyone.